Thanks.
Every day since President Biden dropped out of the re-election race and endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris to take over the top of the ticket, Donald Trump has had more and more reason to be nervous. Polling averages compiled by elections expert Nate Silver show that since Biden dropped out, Harris has moved from being down 4 points to ahead of Trump by 2. Now, a new poll today from Marquette has her up 6 points among registered voters, and that is beyond the margin of error. And among likely voters, Harris is up by 9 points. Now, that could be an anomaly, but it is pointing out that things are changing. And polling's not the only thing looking good for Kamala Harris. Her fundraising is off the charts. Her crowd sizes are massive, and people are volunteering to work for her campaign in droves. She's got enthusiasm on her side right now. She's got momentum. The Washington Post reports that in the face of Harris's new momentum, Trump has, quote, grown increasingly upset about Harris's surging poll numbers and media coverage since replacing Biden on the ticket, end quote. 5 people close to the campaign told the Post that Trump is, quote, complaining relentlessly and asking friends about how his campaign is performing, end quote. So today, Donald Trump invited members of the press down to his Florida beach club, Mar-a-Lago, where he held a press conference of sorts to try to take back control of the news cycle.
They talk about, oh, the enthusiasm. Let me tell you, we have the enthusiasm. The Republican Party and me as a candidate, but the Republican Party has the enthusiasm.
When you have to tell people you've got the enthusiasm, that's an issue. Clearly nervous about Harris's 12,000 and 15,000 person crowds in Wisconsin and Michigan yesterday, Trump spent a disproportionately large part of this press conference hyper-focused on, you guessed it, crowd size. First, he claimed that he had 88,000 people come out to see him in South Carolina. 88,000 people. It's a very, very, very big crowd. Turns out the 88,000 people weren't there to see him. The event he was talking about was not a Trump rally. It was the state's biggest college football game of the year, the Palmetto Bowl. And Trump didn't even make any remarks at the game. He just smiled and waved. By that logic, I should ask MSNBC PR to talk about how big of a crowd I pulled in when I went to my last Yankee game. They were all there for Velshi. But believe it or not, this stupid football game example was not the most outrageous claim about crowd size that Trump made today. The most outrageous claim that he made wasn't even comparing one of his rallies with any of Harris's rallies. It was Trump comparing the crowd at his speech before the attack on our Capitol on January 6th to, well, roll the tape.
Nobody's spoken to crowds bigger than me. If you look at Martin Luther King, when he did his speech, his great speech, and you look at ours, same real estate, same everything, same number of people, if not, we had more. And they said he had 1 million people, but I had 25,000 people. But when you look at the exact same picture, and everything's the same because it was the fountains, the whole thing, all the way back to from Lincoln to Washington, and you look at it, and you look at the picture of his crowd, my crowd, we actually had more people.
Martin Luther King. Now, not only do estimates put the crowd at Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech during the 1963 March on Washington at about 5 times bigger than Trump's January 6th crowd, but the crowds were there for very different reasons, and I think that is pretty important context. Now, the other thing Trump tried to do was to seize the news cycle today was to shift the goalposts around potential upcoming presidential debates. You might remember that Trump had originally agreed to 2 debates with President Biden. One was the debate moderated by CNN earlier this summer, which ultimately led to Biden dropping out of the race. The other debate was still on the horizon. It was set to be moderated by ABC News on September 10th. But once Vice President Kamala Harris took Biden's spot at the top of the Democratic ticket, Trump tried to renege on the whole thing. He tried to back out of the ABC debate, saying that ABC was fake news and biased. His pitch was that the debate should be held on Fox News instead. But Harris didn't take the bait. She said she would see Trump, as the campaigns had previously agreed, on September 10th on ABC. So last week, Trump doubled down, saying he would either debate Harris on Fox News or not at all. Again, Harris did not take the bait. So today, Trump came out with yet another alternative pitch.
It's very important to have debates, and we've agreed with Fox on a date of September 4th. We've agreed with NBC, fairly full agreement, subject to them, on September 10th. And we've agreed with ABC on September 25th.
Now, don't put anything in your diary just yet, because he got Trump, he got ABC and NBC backwards and mixed up. But regardless of Trump's flubs, it's easy to see what he's doing here. He's still trying to make that Fox News debate, a debate on the friendliest terms for him, happen and happen first. Once again, Kamala Harris didn't take the bait.
Well, I'm glad that he's finally agreed to a debate on September 10th. I'm looking forward to it, and hope he shows up.
Are you open to more debate?
I am happy to have that conversation about an additional debate for after September 10th, for sure.
He proposed two more debates.
Like I said, happy to have that conversation.
Why do you think he pulled out of the debate with you? Why do you think
I am beyond trying to speculate about how he thinks. What else?
Can you comment on some of his other criticisms? He made a whole litany of them today. Some of them are about your...
I was too busy talking to voters. I didn't hear him.
I was too busy talking to voters, something Trump is doing with decreasing frequency. While Vice President Harris and her new running mate continue to barnstorm through swing states, tomorrow Donald Trump holds his first rally since last weekend. He's going to the reliably red state of Montana.